We are working on GMetrix Excel Expert Practice Exam 2. Currently we're on project 1 called Utah National Parks. Task 1 asks us to go onto the visitor attendance tab, and what we're going to do is put our cursor in C12, and what it's looking for is a total average attendance at all the national parks. So with our cursor in this cell, we're going to go ahead and insert a function, and the function that we need is average, so we'll search for that one. We'll click OK. And our range is going to be from B4 all the way to G8. We'll click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and use the fill series option in Excel to extend the attendance table and add July to December. So there's multiple ways you can do this. I'm going to put my cursor here in G3. And I'm going to put my cursor here on the little green box down here until I get the black cross. What I'm going to do is just click and drag that over to M, and it shows me that when I let go it'll be December. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 3 asks us to go ahead and go to the F4 on the Ranger-led activities. And what we're going to do is put a formula in that it looks up multiple criteria and ultimately displays yes or no. This is a complicated formula. So let's go ahead and begin. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and start with the not function. So with our cursor here in F4, we're going to go ahead and insert function, and we'll type not here at the top. We'll click OK. And it's asking for our logic here, and it's this. C4 equals, and you have to put the text in quotation, and it's none. Again, C4 equals, in quotation, none. We'll click OK. From here, we want to go ahead and copy that formula, not including the equal sign, and cut that. That's Control X. And then what we want to do is go ahead and insert a new function. This time, we're going to go ahead and do and. Type in and. It pops up. Click OK. And the logic 1, we're going to go ahead and just paste what we just cut. So it populates there. The logic 2 is going to be E4 equals yes. And again, I put yes in quotation marks so that it recognizes the text. I'll just show you real quick. If I delete the quotation marks, notice that it comes up with an error. So make sure you add that in. We'll click OK. From here, we want to go ahead and copy this formula and cut that out. And we're going to go ahead and insert yet another function. This time, we're going to go ahead and do if. We'll click OK. Our logic test is going to be the two formulas that we cut. What do we want Excel to put? If it's true, we want to put yes. We'll hit tab. It puts the quotations in there for us. We don't have to key it in that time. And what if it's false? We're going to go ahead and put no. And we'll click OK. Oh, we'll click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 4 asks us to go ahead and enable the error checking rule that flags numbers formatted as text or preceded with an apostrophe. So we're going to go ahead and click File here, and we're going to go ahead and scroll down to Options. We're going to click Formulas here on the left. I'll shrink this screen. And what we want to do is scroll down towards the bottom in the error checking rules group, and we just want to go ahead and check this box, and we'll click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 5 asks us to go ahead and go to the Attendance Trends tab. And what we have here is a chart. And what it wants us to do is add a linear trend line, and specifically for Zion. So we're going to go ahead and click. Once we select this chart, we get the plus here. And we got trend line and linear. Zion. We'll click Mark Completed. And our final task asks us to go ahead and go to the Programs by Park tab. And what it wants us to do is this pivot chart, it wants us to put it in outline form. So once we put our cursor here in this chart, we get the pivot tools, table tools. We'll click Analyze. We'll click Design. And under Report Layout, we'll click the drop down and we'll click Show in Outline Form. We'll click Mark Completed. We are on GMetrix Excel Expert Practice Exam 2. We're currently on the second project called Utah Ski Resorts. Task 1 asks us to go ahead and modify the workbook option. So when the workbook is in browser, the only classes that can be edited are the Blue Jay and Chipmunk classes. So let's go to the File tab here at the top, which brings us to the Info Backstage view. In this section, we're going to go ahead and scroll down to Browser View Options. We're going to click the Parameters tab, and what we want to do is click Blue Jay and Chipmunk. We'll go ahead and click OK. OK. We can go ahead and exit the Backstage view. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and insert a data validation for the cells C13 through C15. So we'll go ahead and select those, and we're still on the Ski School Enrollment tab. From here, we want to go to the Data tab at the top, and we want to be in the Data Tools group. We'll go ahead and drop the Data Validation drop down here, and in the validation criteria, what we want to do is select whole number here. And at the bottom of this question, it tells us that our minimum value should be 3 and our max should be 10. On the input message, we want to go ahead and make sure that show input message when cell selected is checked off. And it tells us that for the input message, we're going to go ahead and enter a value between 3 and 10. And it tells us that the title of the input message should be class size. You want to be careful that you type everything correctly, because if you don't, capitalization, different parts of this, it's going to mark you wrong. So we've gone ahead and we've put the input message, and now we need to go ahead and put the error message, and it's going to display a stop error alert when invalid data is entered. We want the style to be stopped, or to stop, and then the title is going to be invalid class size and must be a minimum of 3 and maximum of 10 students. We'll go ahead and click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 3 brings us to the Utah ski prices, and we're going to be in L6, and what we're going to do is calculate the average price of the adult annual pass based upon 2 criteria. The first being there being more than 15 lifts, and the other one being more than 2,000 acres. So for this formula, we're going to do the average ifs. It'd be helpful if I could spell, even though it's at the bottom. There we go. We'll go ahead and click OK. Our average range is going to be the adult annual pass. Be careful, because the adult pass, if you're just quickly glancing at the step, you might choose the wrong column. So we'll go ahead and select our range. Now, I don't know why GMetrix will mark you wrong if in the first criteria you put the lifts first. Even though it's first in the question, you actually want to do the acres first. So let's go ahead and select our criteria range, which would be the skiable acres. I overrode my formula. Let me go back. So we're in average range. We'll go ahead and select this right here. All right, criteria, there we go. And we'll go skiable acres. And then the criteria on that is that it's greater than 2,000 acres. And then the second thing is how many lifts. So number of lifts, so we'll go ahead and select that range for our second criteria. And what we're looking for is greater than 15. We'll go ahead and click OK. And it returns that value for us. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. Task 4 asks us to go ahead and create a named range based upon J6 and J19 on the Utah Skis worksheet. So we'll go ahead and select that range, and the easiest way is to go to the name box here in the top left and type in ski runs. Now there are other ways to do it. We'll hit enter, but that's the easiest way. We'll click Mark Completed, and task 5 asks us to go ahead and we're going to create a combo chart based upon the adult and child annual passes for the ski lifts. So let's go ahead and select our first column, which is B5 to B19, the second one being the adult annual pass column and the child. And what I'm doing is I'm holding the control key down on my keyboard as I select these ranges. So from here, we'll go to the Insert tab here at the top. I'm going to go ahead and click Recommended Charts to go to All Charts. And then what we want to do is go to the Combo Charts over here, and we're going to click Custom Combination. So in this question, it tells us on this custom combo chart is the adult annual passes should be an area chart. So let's go ahead and select an area chart. And then for the child annual pass, it says that it's going to be a secondary access line chart. So the line chart's already selected. We just need to go ahead and click this box here to make it a secondary access. Go ahead and shrink this screen just a little bit. We'll click OK. And then before we move on, we're going to go ahead and drag this chart all the way to the corner, starting at A2, 22. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. We are working on GMetrix Excel Expert Practice Exam 2. We're currently on the third project called Dive Show. The first task asks us to go ahead and password protect a range of cells on the top sponsors tab. So we're going to go ahead and select A3 to B13. And what we want to do is go to the review tab here at the top, and under changes group, click allow users to edit ranges, and we'll click new. The title of this is going to be sponsors. Make sure you capitalize that word. Our range is already selected, and what we want to do is go ahead and key in the password 12345. We'll click OK, and it'll ask us to go ahead and rekey in that formula. From here, we'll click Apply, OK, and we've completed that task. Mark complete. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and go to the Dive Shows Exhibitors worksheet. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the exhibitor name, and we'll select that range. And from here, we're going to go to the Home tab at the top, and we're going to go to the Conditional Formatting, New Rule. And what we're going to do down here is click Use a Formula to determine which cells to format. Now, this step is a little bit difficult because we're actually going to hand key an AND statement with some text. So some things that you could miss if you were not paying attention on this step. So we'll go ahead and do the equal sign. We'll type in AND. We'll go ahead and open up our argument by starting a parentheses, and we'll do B3 equals, in quotation, clothing. So just before we move on, we have our cell B3, which is the industry that we're looking for, clothing, equals clothing, which is what we're looking for. But notice I have clothing capitalized and in quotation marks. If I don't put those quotation marks, it will not accept my formula. We'll go ahead and hit comma to start a new part of this and from here, what we want to do is we want to look to see if the boost size is more than 1,000. So boost size is 3, and we want it to be greater than 1,000. And then we're going to close our argument with that parentheses. After we've done that, we'll go ahead. We're done with our formula. We'll click Format, Fill. The background color needs to be yellow. And then our pattern style needs to be the 6.25% gray. If you're not sure, hover on that. It will tell you what you need. We'll click OK, and we'll click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 3 asks us to go to the Session Schedule tab, and in G1, we're just going to go ahead and insert the function now because it asks us to put the current date and time. And we'll click OK, and we'll click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 4 asks us to go to the daily schedule, and it wants us to insert the get pivot data function. You could go ahead and insert that function here in E3, but I'm going to show you an easier way. We'll go ahead and hit equals, and the criteria is Thursday marketing total. So if we just click that, that is the total number of classes for Thursday. Notice here at the top, it goes ahead and puts all of that information in here, and we'll click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 5 asks us to stay on this sheet, and what we're going to do is create a pivot chart from this data. So with our cursor in this pivot table chart, we'll click the Analyze tab here at the top. We'll click Pivot Chart, and what we want to do is create a clustered column chart. So we'll go ahead and click that. It tells us to insert our chart and put it at the upper left-hand corner in C5. And so we'll go ahead and jump and do that down here. And then what it wants us to do is to only have the day Thursday selected for this chart. And for the sessions, which is under track, we only want to see sales and marketing. So we'll go ahead and uncheck the operations. And that's all. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed. We are working on GMetrix Excel Expert Practice Exam 2. We're currently on the grain exports project, which is project number 4. Task 1 asks us to go ahead and modify the Excel options so the function results are not automatically calculated until the workbook is saved. So we're going to click File here at the top. We'll click Options. Over here on the left, we'll click Formulas. And what we want to do is in the workbook calculation here, we want to select Manual and make sure Recalculate Workbook before saving is checked off. We'll click OK. And we'll click Mark Completed. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and change the code style by adding a single white line underline. So we're on the Home tab. We're in the Styles group, Cell Styles, and this is actually a custom style. So we'll right-click it. And what we want to do is click Modify. Up here at the top, we want to click Format, and we're going to go to the Font tab here at the top, and for the underline, we'll click Single, and the color is going to be white background 1. We'll go ahead and click OK, and OK. Click Mark Completed. Task 3 is a little bit of a loaded question, but what we're going to do is run a query based upon an Excel file called Code List. So let's go ahead and go to our Data tab here at the top. And before we do that, we want to put our cursor here in A1 on the exporting countries worksheet. So data, we're in the Get and Transform, New Query, From File, From Workbook. From here, we'll go to our GMetrix Templates folder. We'll click Code List. We'll click Codes. And what we want to do here is click Edit here at the bottom. And that brings us to the query editor. On the Home tab in the Manage Columns group, we want to select Choose Columns, and it tells us that the only thing we want are the country code and country. So we'll unselect everything and then reselect the country code and country. And then what we want to do is load this. So we're going to click Close and Load drop down and Close and Load to. That's important. So if you choose the other option, it will load it to a brand new tab, and we don't want that. Over here, we're going to select where the data should be loaded, and we want it in the existing worksheet, and A1 should be listed there as an absolute reference. We'll go ahead and click Load. We'll go ahead and close this over here. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 4 asks us to go to the grain exports, and what it wants us to do is to create a name range from A2 to A85. So we'll go ahead and put our cursor here. We'll click and we'll drag down to row 85. And what we want to do is name this range. There are a few ways to do it, but the easiest way with our text, with our range selected, is to click here in the name box and just type in country code and hit the Enter key. That is now a named range. And task 5 asks us to go ahead and create a pivot table based upon this information here. So what we'll do is we'll select this table. We want to go to the Insert tab here, and we're going to click Pivot Table. Select the table's already been done. And what we want is a new worksheet. So we'll click OK. And what it did was it threw it in between our two tabs that we already have existing. We'll want to click that and drag it to the right because it says position the new workbook as the rightmost tab. And what we want to do is go ahead and we want to rename this pivot table. So we'll right click here, or you can double click. We'll click Rename Pivot Table, capital P, capital T, and we'll hit Enter to set that name. And then what we want to do is over here, we're going to put some data in. So I'm going to bring this down just so I can see this information just a little bit easier. The first thing we want to do is select our country, and we want to throw it in rows. So you just need to click and drag that down, and notice over here it begins to populate for us. The next thing we want to do is put in the product, and we actually want to put that underneath our country. So the first part is our country, and then it starts to show us our grains. And then for our values, we want to find metric tons. And we can click and drag that over here. And we'll bring back this so you can see more of it. So what we did was it shows the grain exports by each country. And it's telling us our metric tons per both the country and for each grain. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed on that, and we'll click Great. We are working on GMetrix Excel Expert Practice Exam 2. We're currently on the 5th project called Farmers Market. Task 1 asks us to go ahead and change the theme fonts to Arial, and then we're going to go ahead and save that theme in our GMetrix templates folder. So from here, we want to go to the Page Layout tab here at the top. In the Themes group, we'll go ahead and click Fonts, and we'll select Arial. And then from here, we want to click the Themes drop down and click Save Current Theme. And what we want to do is go to our GMetrix templates folder, Farmers Market, click Save, and click Mark Completed. Task 2 asks us to go ahead and go to the Farmers Market tab, so we'll go ahead and do that. What it wants us to do is to change the date here in E1 to have English Canada date, and then it tells us the specific date format. So we've selected E1, we're on the Home tab here, and we want to click in the Numbers group, the dialog box here. It already has date selected in the category, and from here in the location, we just want to scroll up till we get to English Canada. And here in this group, we want to scroll all the way down to this one. It's because it says DD, which is the day. Then we have the 3 M's, which is the month, and then the year, 2-digit date year. So we'll go ahead and click OK. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 3 asks us to go to the Rental Revenue tab, and what it wants us to do is to use actually the goal seeking feature to calculate a new rental fee to help with the projected revenue for $160,000. So we're going to go ahead and put our cursor here in H7, and then from here we want to go to the Data tab here at the top, and then in the Forecast group we have the What If analysis, and what we want is goal seek here. So because we selected H7, that set cell is already keyed in for us, and it tells us that they're looking to have a revenue of $160,000, and it's asking us how are we going to get to this goal, and we want to use the rental fee, which is H6. And we'll click OK, and then we'll click OK to set that. We'll click Mark Completed. Task 4 asks us to go ahead and E2, go to the sales summary sheet. Now I have some sad news here. This is a hard formula. We're using the cube functions. This is a nested statement. I've done a lot of research. I'm still struggling to comprehend this, and so I'm sad to say this, but I need to click Mark for review. Let's go ahead and move on to Task 5. On the projected sales worksheet, so we'll go ahead and click that. It tells us that we want to go ahead and add a new column named 3% increase for that project sales if increased by 3%. So we want to go ahead and put our cursor here in the pivot table. We want to click the Analyze tab here at the top, and over here in Calculations, Fields, Items, and Sets, we're going to click Calculated Field. The name is going to be 3% increase. And our formula here, there's a few ways you can calculate this formula. They want it keyed in like this, equals parentheses sales multiplied by 3% and then plus sales. But there are other ways to do it. You're not locked into just this way. We'll go ahead and click the sales field down here, and when we click OK, notice it goes ahead and it adds that category for us. We'll go ahead and click Mark Completed.